Ms. Bass, you should unmute yourself.
I'm so sorry. Sorry about that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for conducting this important hearing and to the witnesses for your testimony here today. It's not lost on me that we are here discussing a bill that empowers essentially vigilantes to circumvent the rights of others. And I really wanted to ask one of the witnesses, Professor Bridges, if you could talk about that aspect of the bill, and then also put it in its historical context in terms of that type of policing and the impact that that's going to have and how you imagine that's going to play out in the state of Texas.
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. So what, the term that you use, vigilante justice, is precisely what I would use to describe what's going on in Texas. Essentially, the state is allowing, the Supreme Court has allowed the state to allow private citizens to police, to terrorize, to control the bodies of other private citizens. That is precisely how we would describe chattel slavery in this country, for example. The state was permitted to allow private citizens to police, terrorize, control the bodies of the other human beings who they considered to be property. I will also note that the analogy is not an opposite at all, because part and parcel of chattel slavery was the control of people's reproductive lives. It was because humans were property, it was an incentive of the people who purported to own that property to coerce the birth of more property. And so the state allowed private citizens to coerce birth from people. That's precisely what's happening in Texas.
Well, but let me just ask you, because that doesn't apply to everyone. Mm-hmm. I don't think it applied to everyone back in the days of enslavement. And I don't know if the vigilantism that is okay in this bill applies to everyone either. I mean, for example, I don't know to the extent that that would apply to a woman who is particularly affluent. Oh. I don't exactly know, and maybe you can describe a little bit about that. I also think it's kind of ironic because right now they just finished picking the jury in the Ahmaud Arbery trial. And that was, to me, exactly that type of vigilantism. The young man was jogging and he was essentially gunned down because they assumed that he had done something wrong. So how does it even work in the bill? I mean, how is somebody supposed to know the woman in that car is where she's going?
Right, you just got to guess. And the thing is that the bill incentivizes people to guess, to attempt to reap the monetary rewards of a successful lawsuit. One thing that I just want to mention, thank you for bringing up Ahmaud Arbery. It's such a tragedy, but at least his family has the ability to try to seek justice in the courts. What the Supreme Court has done up until right now, we're still in a world in which the Supreme Court has boxed individuals out of the federal judiciary. There's nowhere where we can seek recourse. And so that is why Congress has to act.
Well, I wanted to know also if you could talk about maybe other aspects of this history in the criminal justice system. I mean, you mentioned the period of enslavement. But I want to know if you could describe other times, and if you could also speak about how abortion bans and restrictions are already used to criminalize people accessing abortion and how it could get worse if Roe is overturned.
Right. I mean, so I spoke about chattel slavery, but we know that history extends well beyond chattel slavery throughout Reconstruction. It took a civil rights movement before people of color were granted formal citizenship. And so private actors were permitted to control their lives. I want to spend some time, though, talking about how bans and regulations like SB 8 move abortion access out of the hands of the most marginalized people. And what that means is so those with privilege, as you gestured to before, are able to travel to Kansas, they're able to travel to Oklahoma, they're able to travel to my state of California. They are exercising their constitutional rights, although albeit burdened. The most marginalized are unable to do that. And what that means is that they're resorting to methods that have been criminalized, especially in Texas.
Well, I actually wonder whether an affluent woman would have to leave the state, because I would imagine that a woman of affluence could have that type of care right there in the state of Texas.
Absolutely. We know that in pre-Roe era, people were able to get abortions from their obstetricians.
All right, thank you. I'm out of town. Out of
Thank you.
time. Thank you.